Hello folks, my name is Amador and I'd like to welcome you. I hope you're having a good day today. This time I'd kind of like to talk about D&D or Dungeons and Dragons. Something a little different. This YouTube channel that I'm doing is meant to be more than just video games. It's supposed to be about me playing games and supporting the store that I run, called Multiverse Comics and Games in Grinnell, Iowa. And one of the things that I do at the store is I run sessions of D&D and I play in sessions of D&D. We actually run and play quite a bit of D&D here at the store. On Mondays, I'm running a session that I call the Savage Lands. It's a 5th edition session. It is kind of a homebrew session. I'm not running strictly by the rules in the Player's Handbook or the DM's Guide. It is a primitive setting. All of the players started out as members of a primitive tribe. They're nomadic. They hunt mammoths, very much the whole, I don't know if you've seen the movie 10,000 BC, or I think that's what it's called. That's kind of the feel of the start of the campaign. There's no common language. Everybody in the tribe can speak and understand each other. There's no written language for them. But there's no common tongue between races. One of the first things that happened is they went out on a mammoth hunt, and then to mark the end of their winter and preparing for the move to their summer camping grounds. When they got to their summer camping grounds, they came across three dead dwarves. Most of the people living in this tribe had never run into dwarves before. Only the chieftain and a medicine woman who the group of players has named Peggy Hill. Don't even get me started on the names. I'm letting the group choose the names, so some of them get a little weird. It's hilarious, though. If you as a DM, I would certainly recommend at some point letting your players name or have a hand in creating part of your world. Not only does it give some of the tools and it gives them some buy-in to the world. They get to be a part of what's going on, and it takes a little bit of the workload off yourself. I also run very much seat of the pants kind of style. I have a general idea of a story arc, but when it comes down to the table, the nitty gritty is really kind of determined as we play along. So getting back to the story, the tribe found these dwarven bodies. The chieftain told them to take them up into the mountains to the dwarven village that they later named Smallville, and basically let the dwarves know, hey, we're sorry, we found these, this is what happened. Well, the dwarves ended up having their chieftain go missing in the Underdark, so now the tribe is in the Underdark trying to recover the dwarven chieftain, kind of as a favor and to help open up trading relations. So that's kind of where the group on Monday is doing. On Wednesdays, a friend of mine comes up and he runs D&D Adventures League, which is the organized play system from Wizards of the Coast for 5th edition D&D. I am currently playing in that one as a dragonborn fighter. I just picked the name for the character off of D&D Beyond. I can't pronounce it. Dragonborn names, if you take them out of the book, are unpronounceable, as is most fantasy names in Wizards of the Coast products. One of these days I would just like to come across a blacksmith and have him named Bob or Larry or this is George. Something that's easy to pronounce, not Farfugurathrun or some crap like that. Although the names are kind of cool sometimes, they're absolutely difficult to pronounce. If it wasn't for Google Translate, I would never be able to understand half of them. On Thursdays, I'm running a non-D&D game called Tales of the Loop, which is kids on bikes in the 80s. The game is put out by Malefius. And then, off and on, in between, I run part of a shared campaign with several other GMs, an adventure that we call Tales of the Multiverse, which is a shared universe game, 5th edition D&D, that each GM has their own world. They have their own stories, and characters can move from one to the other. It's basically our version of organized play. It's similar to Adventurers League, but we loosen up the rules a little bit, allow for more flexibility. Some of the GMs allow things that aren't necessarily in the books, like stuff that they homebrew. And we enjoy that as well. On Sundays, I'm running Tomb of the Annihilation for a small closed group here at the store. They are almost finished with it. They are getting ready to enter the tomb itself. I figure that we've probably got a few more months of that, and the group has asked me that once we get done with the Tomb of Annihilation, I asked them what did they want to play through next, and it was suggested that we run AD&D. Now, I haven't ran AD&D or played in AD&D for a very long time. I think 2 years ago, somewhere in there, I tried to run a session for a group of friends. It was using the old D&D red box from like '83, and it was running the adventure that was in the player or in the DM's book. There's an adventure in there, a small keep, and I TPK'd the group pretty much right at the start. I think I even let them roll extra characters, and I ended up killing like 6 or 7 characters within like the first hour. Some of that was me not remembering any of the rules, trying to go through and reread stuff as we went along. It was kind of a spur-of-the-moment decision to run this, so I wasn't heavily prepared. And while I do run by the seat of my pants on a lot of stuff, you really shouldn't do that if you're new to the rules, or if it's a set of rules that you're trying to remember, or you haven't played in a long time. So you really gotta read the rules and have at least some understanding of what's going on, which is one reason why, as we were getting ready to enter the Tomb of Annihilation, I asked the group what they wanted to do next. So because I know that it's going to take me probably 3 to 4 months to finish the Tomb, and then that way I have some time in between sessions to prepare for our next game, which is going to be Temple of Elemental Evil under AD&D. I'm currently reading and prepping the adventure, and also reading the rules. I've had to dig out my old player's handbook and, read through this thing, and I'm going to be doing the same thing with my old DM's guide, which is about to fall apart. I think I'm going to have to get a new one here pretty soon. And of course, the Temple of Elemental Evil itself. This poor module is in bad shape. The front and back cover have come off. But I started reading through it, and I think I'm going to be well prepared, by the time we're ready to run this in a few months, and I'm looking forward to that. Don't mind me as I scratch my ears. So, D&D, I've been playing D&D for, since the mid-'80s, probably at least. A friend of mine in junior high introduced me to the Red Box, and we played during lunch. It was an art teacher that actually owned it, so we would go down to the art room, and that's where I learned and was introduced to D&D for the first time. Eventually, they would go on to this grand campaign. I ended up playing, and we would mix things. We were playing the old FASA Doctor Who game at one point. We were mixing in Car Wars and some of GURPS. The character that I had in our D&D campaign, eventually he was half human, half Gallifreyan. His TARDIS was this galleon ship. He had a duplication cycle going on in the bowels of the ship with a gold coin and a bag of duplication and a teleportation pad. He had basically broken the world. I believe in order to end that campaign, my friend ended up putting my character on trial for violating the rules of time, and he was split in half into his human and Gallifreyan halves, and that was essentially how we reset the campaign. And that was pretty much at the time that I was finishing up high school, and from then on, I went in the Air Force afterwards, and I didn't play for a couple of years. Although I still gamed a lot. I did a lot of video games. I was playing WoW after I got out of the service for the longest time. And then once I got into owning my first game store, then I got back into D&D and playing Magic. And then later on I got involved with Multiverse. And now I'm the owner of Multiverse. I run D&D sessions, and I play Magic, and I play Lightseekers, which is a great card game that I think everybody should try. So that's kind of where I'm at. That's kind of where I came up, and my gaming background. I've played board games all my life. I enjoy that constantly. Some of my favorites right now are Gloomhaven, Pandemic Legacy, Dragonfire I like, which is the D&D card game, but it's really tough to play. I don't think we've won one play session, but I'm not sure it was really a valid win. So there's just kind of a little bit of background on me. And my gaming, history. What I really wanted to talk about a little bit is D&D. So when I play D&D or when I run D&D, I'm very much a seat of the pants GM, very improv. I don't do a lot of voices, although I try once in a while. It's just kind of my style. I have an overall arc in mind, like. For the Monday campaign, I know it's going to happen during our next session as far as an event or a couple of encounters that I would like to occur, depending on which way the party goes. I have the overall arc kind of thought out in my mind, but as far as like details, how they interact with certain, with individuals within the city, how they figure out how to get into the Drow city. Some of that is just basically kind of on the whim. I use D&D Beyond. I'm not a fan of their payment system, but I have gone ahead and done it. It is pretty helpful. I will give them that. Just wish, I do wish that there was some way to tie your physical books with the digital books. I really dislike trying to have to buy my books in more than one format. It just doesn't make sense to me, but that's the way it is. I understand they gotta make money, just like as a retailer, I have to make money too. So I understand the concept, and I don't begrudge them because of it, but I'm not a fan of the business model that they're working on. But that's just me. So as I'm playing, if a player says, "Hey, I want to do this," well, then I will almost always let them try. I will probably put some sort of skill test to it, try to have a skill that is related to what they're doing as much as possible, and then have them roll for it. If what they're doing is pretty easy, DC of 10. If I want to stretch them a little, I give it a DC of 15. I very rarely go as high as a DC of 20, but on occasion, if they're being interfered in some way, I'll throw a disadvantage into it if somebody's helping them, or if they're if they give me some sort of story reason for why I should give them advantage, then I'll do that. I really try to tailor what we're doing around the story. The story is the most important thing to me when we're playing. I want to have, I want the players to enjoy telling a story, and including rolling the dice in combat, but dice are not the most important thing in my stories. They help guide us. They are not the final arbitrators. The final arbitrator is myself and my players. We have one player who has died character-wise in many campaigns numerous times. I almost feel bad. But we've kind of even worked it into the story a little bit. So, at the very beginning of the primitive campaign, during the mammoth hunt, his character got trampled by a mammoth and died pretty much outright, because they were like level 1 and 2. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why am I throwing mammoths at them at level 1 and 2? Well, I had it all set up so that they had the ability to plan a way to minimize their exposure to attacks from the mammoths, so they could take them down. As a nomadic tribal group that hunts mammoths on a regular basis, I figured that they would be able to do that even at level 1 and 2. And things went fairly well for the most part. They were able to take down 2 mammoths one at a time individually. They were able to lure them into this really great trap that they set up. But on the second one, the person who was essentially being the bait lost out on his initiative roll, and the mammoth was able to go a little bit faster than he did, and it trampled him to death. Flatter than a pancake. Yeah, a mammoth. Dead. So he'd already lost like 10 or 11 characters in other campaigns, and we were just starting off. I didn't want him to have to create a new character that early into the campaign. With no magic healing available to the group, I had to come up with some other way, and fortunately, actually, my players came up with the way to bring him back, because either one or two of the players ran to him really early, right after he went down, and started like trying to bandage him and trying to stabilize him. Well, the amount of damage that he done should have been just flat out dead, and not just dead, death saves, because a trampling mammoth does a ton of damage. But fortunately, they'd gone over there. I had them do a couple of medicine checks, and they rolled high enough that I decided that they were able to bring back the spark of life in him and save him. The character's name was originally Crash. He was a barbarian, so it was kind of fitting. They ended up calling him Pancake, Flat. There were some other names, Crush, to kind of incorporate that. And since I'm kind of home brewing things a little bit with that campaign, when he leveled up from 1 to 2, I basically gave him the orc racial ability that allows you to, when you drop to 0, there's a chance that you can come back at 1 hit point. I think it's a Constitution save, but I gave him that half orc racial ability as a human. He has this to give him a sense of having taken the damage from the mammoth, and basically being brought back from death. He, earned this ability. So that's kind of how I play my games. I'd like to do some more videos like this, kind of talking about my D&D sessions and other gaming sessions, and do some board game stuff. I also doing the Minecraft videos, and some Civilization videos, and I'm probably going to come up with a couple of other games that I'll play and do videos on here eventually. But I don't want it to be, I don't want this channel to be just videos of video games, because I do more than just video games. So I hope you like this video. I'm probably gonna, I'm wrapping it up here. I'm going to keep these kind of short. So I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm going to say thank you for watching. If you like this video, please hit the like button down below. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe. And I hope you'll watch all my videos, and I will see you next time.